Good morning, everyone. I am a volunteer from the IAH Colombian chapter, and I want to welcome you to our 5th cycle of Groundwater Talks. We really appreciate your support to our chapter and join us with our volunteer activities. So, yesterday we had connectivity issues with Harry Moses' presentation, and today is joining us Sayed Hadi. So you guys will find the presentation from yesterday that was canceled in our next cycle of talks. So it's time to present Sayed. Sayed is a master student studying water resources engineering at the university in Kazakhstan. He studied water resources management in his bachelor's degree. Currently, he is doing an internship at the international organization which is responsible for policy making and regional and transboundary water resources management. Basically, he's very interested in technical aspects of water. So, Sayed, thank you so much for joining us today. You can start your presentation now.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I am Hadi, Saeed Hadi from Afghanistan, and I'm mastering at Satpayev University in Almaty, Kazakhstan. And thank you, IAH Columbia, for organizing such an amazing event, for making it possible. And thank you all who are watching this presentation right now. So we are going to talk about we're going to talk about the impact of wastewater treatment on the quality of groundwater. This presentation is more informational one, and we are going to talk about how wastewater impact the quality of groundwater, not only the groundwater, but also surface water, and what kind of health issues it will bring to people and to the damages on the environment and ecosystem. So first we will start by distribution of the world's water, and then we will have what is actually a wastewater and how dangerous wastewater could be, and influence of wastewater on groundwater, and what are the best possible actions. In the end, we will have your questions in case there are some. Distribution of the world water. Accessible fresh water is very limited. From all amount of water, only 3% of that is fresh water. And from this 3%, a huge amount of water is in form of ice caps and glaciers, but only just around 1% of fresh water is available as a surface water that we can use it, and also 20% of that is groundwater located in aquifers and deep in the ground, which is not economically feasible for usage. So what I want to say is that the water that is accessible is very limited, and we need to be careful on how to use it appropriately. So in the beginning, I would like to say some sad facts about wastewater and the impact of that on the environment. We need to know that more than 80% of the world's wastewater flows back into the environment without being treated or reused. According to the United Nations, in some least developed countries, the figure tops 95%. 20% of the groundwater in China is used as drinking water, which is highly contaminated with carcinogenic chemicals which cause high levels of water pollution. And around 50 million children under the age of 5 die each year because of diseases caused by drinking water. And groundwater in Bangladesh is contaminated with arsenic. Arsenic is very toxic, acute poison, and a carcinogen. Approximately 85% of the total area of Bangladesh has contaminated groundwater. And around 80% of the water pollution is caused due to domestic sewage, like throwing garbage on open ground and water bodies. According to the survey done by Food and Water Watch, cites that approximately 3.5 billion people in 2025 will face water shortage issues. This will be mainly due to water pollution. And around 700 million people worldwide drink contaminated water. An estimated 1,000 children die every day in India to polluted water, due to polluted water. So we need to remember that we are already having a lot of issues in terms of water shortage and water pollutions. So nature of wastewater. What is actually wastewater? Wastewater is simply used water from industry, domestic, and the water that we use for production of goods. And what is in wastewater? In wastewater, there are human feces and urine, food from sinks, soaps, and other cleaning agents, runoff from streets and lawns, industrial discharges. They contain a lot of chemical toxics, which bring multiple harms for the health of animals and people, and it damages the environment. So what are the sources of wastewater? There are around four sources for wastewater. There are domestic, industrial, agricultural, and urban. And domestic, it consists of black water containing human and animal fecal matter, as well as gray water from household activities like bathing, washing, etc. And there are industrial wastewater, which is used in factories, for example, in paper production and other factories which contain a lot of chemicals in there. And agricultural wastewater, it comes from agricultural activities, contaminated groundwater and farming techniques, especially related to fertilizers and pesticides. And also urban wastewater, which this is actually domestic and industrial wastewaters combined with sewage infiltration and rainwater. So the problem with wastewater is that it contains a lot of pollutants in form of solids, pathogens, organic matter, nutrients, and also metals. So which raises the need of water to be treated. So we need to treat water for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons is water shortage. Let's say that we don't have any water shortage at the moment, but there are other harms of wastewater as well. For example, for wildlife habitats, fisheries, health concerns, and recreation of quality of life. In terms of wildlife habitats, the toxins in water may cause blood clotting, seizures, or serious medical issues that can kill animals. So when humans use these animals, it will infect human as well. But for fisheries, chemical waste contains a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen, and when they enter the water, they produce a lot of algae, and algal blooms, when they die, the bacteria consumes all of the oxygen and it creates a dead zone with fish cannot live in. So when there are a huge amount of bacteria, that bacteria consumes oxygen in the water. And without that oxygen in water, in that case, there is going to be a dead zone, which doesn't allow fish to live in. And health concerns, it creates and brings a lot of infectious diseases, for example, cholera, typhoid, looseness of the bowels, trachoma, and others. You need to know that around 1.8 million youngsters under the age of 5 die each year because of contaminated water. And also the recreation and quality of life. The chemicals and heavy metals in water contaminate waterways, reducing an organism's life span and ability to reproduce. So how does groundwater, how does water actually contaminate? There are two reasons for that. It's naturally contamination and also human-induced contamination. So in naturally contamination, we cannot do much, but in terms of human activities, we can take our best possible actions to minimize the contamination amount. Naturally contaminated water happens when there are a huge amount of arsenic or chloride, fluorides, sulfates, radionuclides, iron and manganese in water. So when these metals and metalloids condensate in water, which doesn't meet the World Health Organization standards for human consumption, in that case, we can say that this water is naturally contaminated. For example, in Bangladesh, about 49% of the groundwater being likely contaminated with arsenic concentration above the WHO guidelines, affecting around 35 to 77 million people within the country. And up to 60 million people in Pakistan are at risk from the deadly chemical arsenic, according to the new analysis of water supplies. So you need to know that the World Health Organization standard for arsenic metalloid is 10 per million part per million, and the amount which causes cancer is 150 part per million. So in this map, you can see the groundwater contamination around the world. As you see in some part of northern US, we have water contamination, groundwater contamination, which is mainly arsenic affected aquifers, and also in South America and in some part of Asia. But as you see, Africa is doesn't have a lot of groundwater contamination issues, but it's mainly in Asia and also in North and South America. But there are human-induced groundwater contamination. Here is what we can do a lot about. And the reasons why they contaminate is septic systems, improper disposal of hazardous waste, spills from chemical and petroleum products, sewers and other pipelines, pesticide and fertilizer use, and landfills. So how can groundwater be contaminated from septic systems? One of the main causes of groundwater contamination is the effluent from septic tanks and previous. Although each individual system releases a relatively small amount of waste, into the ground. The large number and widespread use of these systems make them a serious contamination source. Septic systems that are improperly sited, designed, and constructed can contaminate groundwater with bacteria, viruses, nitrates, detergents, oils, and also other chemicals. Along with these contaminants are the commercially available septic system cleaners containing synthetic organic chemicals. So these cleaners can contaminate water supply wells and interfere with natural decomposition processes in septic systems. Improper disposal of hazardous waste. Underground and above ground storage tanks are commonly used to store petroleum products and other chemical substances. For example, many homes have underground heating or heating oil tanks. Many businesses and municipal highway departments also store gasoline, diesel fuel, oil, or chemicals in on-site tanks. Industries use storage tanks to hold chemicals used in industrial processes or to store hazardous waste for pickup by a licensed hauler. There are spills from chemical and petroleum products. And also sewer and other pipelines. Sewer pipes carrying waste sometimes leak fluids into the surrounding soil and groundwater. Sewage consists of organic matter, inorganic salts, heavy metals, bacteria, viruses, and nitrogen. And other pipelines carrying industrial chemicals and oil brine have also been known to leak, especially when the materials transported through the pipes are corrosive. And pesticides and fertilizer use, this is mainly in agricultural purposes, and millions of tons of fertilizers and pesticides are used annually around the world. In addition to farmers, homeowners, businesses, utilities, and municipalities use these chemicals. A number of these pesticides and fertilizers have entered and contaminated groundwater following normal and registered use. Some pesticides remain in soil and water for many months to many years, actually. Another potential source of groundwater contaminations is animal waste that percolates into the ground from farm feedlots. So feedlots should be properly sited and waste should be removed at regular intervals. And also there is landfill contamination. So governments and also waste management organs basically use ground to conserve the waste into that special area and by digging like large wells, but sometimes they don't follow the standards, and after a rain and when water accumulates on that area, these hazardous materials can enter the ground and contaminate groundwater, which is a huge problem nowadays. So why does groundwater and generally water contaminate? There are a lot of reasons behind this. For example, urbanization, population growth, living standards, they're all interrelated. As population grows, there is going to be a huge need for industrial products, which in turn use a huge amount of water. And also, the more people there are, the more waste is produced, and it gets harder to be treated. And that's why there is a big concern for wastewater management, and for groundwater and water contamination in general. So what are the dangers of contaminated groundwater? As we mentioned earlier, there are a number of diseases that contaminated water can bring to human. For example, poisoning by toxics, liver problems, diarrhea and vomiting, skin damages, dysentery, and hepatitis. So we need to know that there are a lot of countries relying on groundwater. And for example, in 2017, Afghanistan, 68.1% of people were using groundwater resources. And in Bangladesh, if you see, and in Burundi, Chad, Central African Republic. So the percentage is very huge, and it means that they majorly rely on groundwater resources. And if groundwater resources are contaminated, life for those people is going to get harder and harder. And that's why the need for waste management is very high. So one of the reasons why water resources that influences water resources is climate change. Now, today, nobody questions the fact that climate change poses a global problem. Together with unstoppable population growth, estimates indicate that by 2030, half the world population will be suffering water shortages. There are already real experiences of indirect reuse, such as injection of water into aquifers to be subsequently used for human consumption. But today's technology is ready to make the jump to direct reuse. A combination of technological processes such as ultrafiltration, inverse osmosis, advanced oxidation and disinfection by using ultraviolet light will allow the production of drinking grade water for the effluent of a water treatment plant of even better quality than the water that comes out of our taps. In fact, there are already real cases where wastewater treated with these processes is input directly into drinking water plants without going first into an aquifer. So, but there are still some concerns which is raised by climate change. For example, drought, and which leads to groundwater overconsumption, and also in turn to water shortage. So we all know that climate change make those areas which are dry even drier, which brings the need of usage of groundwater in those areas. So if the groundwater resources of those areas are consumed more than before, then those areas will face a huge problem in terms of water resources. That's why we need to think of wastewater management to manage and reuse the water and provide people with that. So much of the impact of climate change will be felt through changing patterns of water availability, with shrinking glaciers and changing patterns of precipitation increasing the likelihood of drought and flood. If climate change is the shark, then water is its teeth, and it is an issue on which businesses need far greater levels of awareness and understanding, say the United Nations. So what happens if water is not treated properly? So there is going to be water shortage, which in turn brings health problems and unemployment. And if there is unemployment, then there will be poverty in that community. and poverty brings hunger for that society, and in terms, hunger brings even a larger problem, which is immigration. And if there is immigration, then there will be global crisis for that. So to just eradicate the problem, we need to think to how to manage our water so that we will not have even serious problems in the future. Nowadays, many people are moving from some Asian countries and African countries to European countries just because they don't have access to sanitation and water resources, and life gets harder for them as climate change impacts hit them every day. So what can we do actually? Are there any possible actions for wastewater treatment? Actually, yeah, the answer is yes for this, and scientist community are trying very hard for finding great solutions for wastewater management by creating and establishing wastewater treatment plants, septic systems, and other possible actions. So here in this picture, you can see a wastewater treatment plant, which is treating millions and billions of gallons of water every day. And for individual households, there are special designs of septic systems that people can use and leave the water, the treated water, to the ground so that underground water will not be contaminated. So do water treatment plants and septic systems really work? Yes, but if only the septic systems and plants are designed and implemented properly. But if there is a failure in that system, in this case, there is going to be a huge harm on the groundwater resources. As you see in these pictures, there are broken septic systems containing a lot of hazardous materials and contaminating groundwater resources. So over the years, a lot of technologies have been developed to reduce the water contamination problems. Here you can see logical toilets, and they can immediately treat water and just remove the hazardous materials from wastewater and treat water the best possible ways. In this video, I'm going to show you how a septic system actually work to give you a clear vision of septic systems. Just let's watch it together.
Sajed, we can listen the video. I mean, the video has sound?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Oh, so maybe you need to go to the microphone configuration and let me.
But that's not important actually. The sound is
Okay.
not very important. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sayed, I was thinking that maybe if you want, you can explain while the video is showing or something. Sayed, are you speaking? We can listen to you. I can hear you. Could you please review your microphone? I can hear you. Sayed, can you hear me? Sayed, can you hear me? I can hear you. I can see your screen, but I can hear you. Could you please review your microphone, please? Sayed, I can hear you. Sayed. Sayed, sorry, but I can hear you. Could you please review your microphone? Can you hear me? Sayed. Sayed, sorry, we can hear you. Sayed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What about you?
Sorry, Sayed, but we lost you since I mean, go back almost all the slides. After you finish the video, we could not hear you anything. I mean, even the videos. I mean, the videos were on mute all the time. So if you can, please go back. Yes, thank you. Since that, I mean, since that slide, yes, in that one, please. Thank you so much. And
Okay.
I was trying to tell you, we can hear you, but you didn't listen to me. So thank you so much.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry, very sorry. Okay, sorry for the inconveniences. As I said, uh, the scientist community has been trying very hard in order to develop the self-sufficient wastewater treatment plants. And these treatment plants not only produce the energy needed for the water treatment, but also they produce a huge amount of energy for the environment and for the household activities around that plant. According to a report, around 12 wastewater treatment plants has reached energy self-sufficient level, which many of them are located in the US and some in Europe. So energy self-sufficiency level are over 90% in those plants. And also they own high level of denitrification, which is a main problem in the major treatment plants in the rest of the world. So here I will introduce you some of the self-sufficient water treatment plants. This one in this picture, as you see, this is Marselisburg wastewater treatment plant, and it has very unique features that you need to know. For example, low carbon dioxide footprint and 53% electricity surplus. It means that the amount of energy that is being used in that plant is 3.15 gigawatt hour in a year, and the amount of energy that this plant produces is around 4.8 gigawatt hour. So surplus heat power. The digesters in this treatment plant produces heat power that could be used for heating during cold seasons in that area, and also reduction in needed electricity power. The engineers in this treatment plant, they developed some kind of aeration in aeration tanks, some jets that consumes less energy but works more than regular and conventional jet pumps, and which uses less electricity. So they are constantly modifying, and they are constantly modifying every particle in that wastewater treatment in order to increase the productivity of the plant. So here is a wastewater treatment plant in Austria. In this treatment plant, this is also self-sufficient treatment plant, which provides its all energy consumed in the plant by itself. And in this plant, mechanical treatment, primary clarifier, biological treatment, and also sludge digesters are carried out. And it not only produces electricity, but it also produces biogas for energy generation, and also the fertilizers and pesticides which is produced in this area is used for agricultural fields. Next is Howard current wastewater treatment plant in Tarma. So this treatment plant is also self-sufficient, and it provides a huge amount of energy, not only for itself, but for the environment around. So if you see this here in this map, we have the water flow and the water treatment amount in Howard current wastewater treatment plant. As you see, it shows the daily amount of water which is treated. And if you see the trend, we can see that more than between 30 to 60 or 70 million gallon of wastewater is treated in one day. This is a huge benefit for the environment and for groundwater resources. So, but there are still some challenges that should be considered and should be worked on. Some of them are as follow. For example, a reuse of water at the highest possible level from toilet to tap. So a lot of water which is treated by treatment plants are going back to the rivers and oceans. But what wastewater treatment plant designers are trying to raise the cleanliness of wastewater to the level that could be used for drinking. And this is still a challenge for engineers and for scientists. And recovery of sub-products such as biofuels or fertilizers, which turn our modern treatment plants into resource factories. So as I mentioned before, there are more than 12 wastewater treatment plants that are self-sufficient in terms of energy, but there are still other treatment plants that they don't use the solids and they cannot produce biofuels or fertilizers from the solid that is accumulated. This is also a challenge that should be overcome. And also the third is radical reduction in energy consumption with the ultimate aim of making treatment plants self-sufficient or even net exporters of energy. So in water treatment plants, basically aeration tanks are using a huge amount of energy. And that's around 40 to 60% of energy is used in aeration tanks. This is a challenge for many wastewater treatment plants to minimize the consumption of energy in that area. And also reducing carbon footprints by optimizing solid digesters. So as I said, many solid digesters, there is a danger of carbon footprints for the environment. This should also be considered, and this is a real problem in many areas around the world. So how will our plants look like in 20 years? It is hoped that higher efficiencies in and effectiveness of the systems would allow less waste and better recycling of the resources. We may see various technologies applied and new trends. Perhaps water and wastewater treatment will combine and less wastewater will be discharged to the rivers. Perhaps more facilities will utilize closed cycle systems, making rivers safer and environmentally friendlier. Plant space, especially in cities, would have to be utilized better, and some regions would likely apply new methods. For individual communities with closed cycle water technology to be more self-sustained and less polluting. Another example that is a reality today, islands that get roughly 20% of their water from desalination projects. This is also a great success even in today's time. So in the end, our duty as an individual member of the community is to constantly give awareness about the negative impacts of water resources contamination use water as efficient as possible. For example, if 1 liter per person in a day is conserved, there's going to be 7 billion liters water saving all around the world, which is a huge amount of water. Now you can count it for 1 week and for 1 month or for 1 year. This is going to be a huge amount of water. If we use our waters very efficiently, we will not face very serious problems. If you notice any water leakage in a pipe or failure in a septic system, inform the nearest responsible organ as fast. So this is what, as an individual person, as an ordinary member of the community, we can do about water saving. So as Neil Armstrong said, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Thank you very much. If there are some questions, I am here to answer them.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Sayed.
Yes. Thank you.
I think that nobody from the audience just posted questions. So I do have a question for you, and it's related to the videos. I saw the videos, and the videos were really, really nice, but I want that you please summarize, the key messages that you wanted to give us showing those videos.
Basically, in the wastewater treatment plants, there are some steps that are carried out. Let me just bring it back for you and show it. As I showed in this video, there are some processes that are being done. First, when the water enters the treatment plant, there is just some solids inside that water, and also some gravels in that water, and also some biological matters and chemical matters inside the water that harms the health of people. What this water treatment plant simply do is to remove all those solids and chemicals and microbes and viruses from the water. So first of all, the solids are removed, and then that is carried out to a sedimentation tanks for the gravels to just be removed by the special screens in the plant. And then there is chemical contaminants removed by aeration tanks, and aeration tanks just pump oxygen inside the water, which is used to feed the bacteria. And bacteria just naturally remove the biological matters from water, and then the water is carried out for the final purification, which contains ultraviolet or chlorination. And here, if there is any remaining microbes or bacteria or any kind of biological contaminants, these contaminants are being removed by chlorination or ultraviolet lamps dedicated for the removal of biological matters from the wastewater. And then the final stage is to just carry that water to the river or to the oceans that is not harmful for the fishes or for any kind of agricultural usage. That's what the video shows.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a question from Iris. She's asking, can you install a system in a humid area?
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The question that we have is from Iris, and she's asking, can you install a system in a humid areas?
Yeah, the answer is yes, but it depends on what kind of materials we use for septic systems. For example, there are some plastic tanks that are used as a septic system. But we can use that. And also there are some septic systems made out of concrete that is also useful. But what we should avoid putting on septic systems is additional weight, because additional weight will damage the septic systems, but humidity is not a serious problem for septics.
Okay, so we don't have more questions for now. So Sajed, thank you so much for your time and to share with us your knowledge. I think that this topic is really, really, really interesting and also important. So thank you so much and congratulations for the research that you are doing in your masters.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for watching, and thank you for having me here. It was a unique experience for me as well.
Okay, so I want to thank you to all our audience, and just I want to say that tomorrow we will have our last talk. So everybody welcome to join us at the same time, 10 a.m. Colombian time. Have everybody have a really good day.
Goodbye.